Hi, I'm Nicole Wolf-Camplin. I'm the Adult Literacy Coordinator here at the Cape Fear Literacy Council. And today we're here to talk about a topic that can be really challenging for new tutors or even new teachers who've completed 4 years of teacher training. We're going to talk about the nuts and bolts of lesson planning. And so the first place we're going to start is with our skill books. Here at the Literacy Council, you're liable to get 2 different skill books for working with your student. One of those will focus on phonics and spelling, and the other one will focus more on reading skills for vocabulary, comprehension, and writing. And so what we have to do today is sort of put these things together into a somewhat cohesive lesson that we can execute in 60 to 90 minutes. And that's our goal. So the first place to start is with your teacher's editions. And in the case of the Focus on Phonics series, they can come in different types, but with this one, you'll see that I have teacher pages to teach me the rules of phonics and to teach me how to teach my student the rules. And then I've got a student practice page that's embedded in the actual teacher's edition. So it's very convenient to go from a page of instruction to a page of student practice and see the answers at the same time. There are other teachers' manuals that will be organized a little bit differently. For the Journey to Success series that we use here, we're able to download these teachers' editions off the internet, which is great because it saves us money. But you'll notice that once we get inside, this is telling the tutor how to teach the content material, but it has absolutely no pictures of what the student is looking at. So you would also get issued a student text so that you can open up and see what the student will be seeing. And so that helps you plan your lessons through your students' eyes. So you can start your lesson with either one, phonics or reading, but it makes sense to mix it up a little bit so your student doesn't feel like you're getting in a rut, add some interest. And today I'm going to start with the reading section. We're in the social studies unit of the Journey to Success Level 4, which is gearing up towards the GED by using material that would mirror that found on the test. And so we've started the chapter on American landmarks, and now we're going to continue. We left off with the Brooklyn Bridge. We've been looking at this book, and we've already started our study of the great American landmarks by learning a little bit about the Brooklyn Bridge. We did some vocabulary, and you will see that this book sets us up to do a little bit of pre-reading and previewing of the text, to also read a selection and then do some after the reading or post-reading comprehension questions. One of the skills we are focusing on in this particular chapter is how to summarize. And in the first step, the book has given the student summaries to deal with. But now we're in the second article of this chapter, and the teacher's guide is telling me to have them fill out a graphic organizer to summarize the text. That's a pretty complicated and giant step for my student to take, so I'm going to break it down into some smaller pieces. First, we're going to review what we did last time. We're going to look at this preview again and remind her to always get the purpose for her reading, to try and understand what she is going to learn about before she actually starts the learning process. So read the first sentence. What's the article about? Read the first sentence of paragraph 4. What will that paragraph be about? And I'm wondering to myself, why am I skipping to paragraph 4? In the first part, they told us to skim by reading the first sentence of every paragraph. And so that's what I'm going to ask my student to do so she can review that skill. We're reviewing how to preview. Read each sentence, each paragraph's first sentence. It's usually, but not always, the topic sentence. And so that will create a frame on which she can hang the more detailed information. The next thing we're cued to do is to look at the photo and see what it shows. And clearly it shows someone touching a name at the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial. In this case, I'll have the student do a couple paragraphs to make sure she can decode the words, talk about any problematic vocabulary, and then I'll probably reread the passage to her at some point. So I'm just getting an idea for the flow of this lesson. it's entirely possible that we'll get to these 3 comprehension questions. And we may even get to discussing how to summarize the first paragraph. Then we're going to take a break. That was a lot of mental energy. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually switch some gears and move over to my Focus on Phonics book. So here in Focus on Phonics, in the Teacher's Edition, as previously noted, I have some content available to me that's going to teach me how to add the ED, ER, and the ING word endings when I have a Y. Specifically, we're looking at when do you change the Y to I, and when don't you, and what happens. So I've selected the pages. We've previously done page 41, so we're on page 42 now. So I'm looking at the page that my student is required to do, and it looks pretty dry and boring. It seems to me that this would be a good time to add manipulatives. We talked about ways to use manipulatives to make the learning more engaging for our students, and it might be fun to just kick that Y out of the way and move into the IES. So in choosing my manipulatives, I could make up my own flashcards for each of these words and letters here in the book, but that sounds like a lot of work. The Literacy Council does have Scrabble tiles in the form of cards, and so that's another option for me. I could be using these cards to make things happen, but it's just as easy to use the Scrabble tiles themselves. So here I have the tiles for the word hurry. I clearly have my Y at the end, and now I'm going to take this word hurry and make it into hurrying. It's very easy to do that. And there we go. We just added that ing according to the rules. However, if I want to say I was hurried, maybe I was running late to something, I would have to flick that Y out of the way, put in the I, and then add the ED to get the word hurried. And you see how that little flick will help remind the student of what they need to do for the ED ending or perhaps for the ER ending. And so I've made it a more memorable experience. My student is physically engaged in doing something very simple, and it may help reinforce that skill for them. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll probably get back to the workbook page. All right, let's review. I've got my materials. I've got my lesson plan outline. I have read the teacher's volumes, and I know what's expected of me. I have an idea in my head about how this lesson is going to go, how it's going to flow from step 1, previewing, reading, and post-reading activities in one book, and the use of the manipulative tiles, and the workbook for the other book. Now I have to find the hook that's really going to grab my student. So I'm going back to what I know about her. Obviously, being able to read quickly, accurately, and understand the material is going to be very important to her success on the GED. I think she's mature and she will understand why that's important. There's also a writing component on the GED, and I think she's going to understand to do that successfully, she's going to have to spell words quickly, fluidly, and easily. But I also want to get her thinking kind of mentally, and we talked about safe writing and journal writing in particular. So I'm coming up with a safe writing prompt in my head. I don't know where she's been, if she's had a chance to travel, but perhaps at some point in her life, she went someplace, maybe a famous place, maybe a place on a regular basis that elicited a particular feeling for her. And since she likes to read romance novels, it could be either a positive feeling or a negative feeling. Imagining herself as the heroine standing in a place that's giving her these strong feelings. Has she been to one of those before? And that might be a good way to warm up into the lesson, since the Vietnam Veterans War Memorial is in fact a place that elicits a lot of strong emotions from people who visit there. I now have my lesson plan outline, an idea of what I'm going to do, and I can start writing the plan.